All right, everybody, welcome to the Voice in the Pen podcast. Emily and I are really stoked today to have with us here in studio Zack Brown, songwriter from Carolina Beach. You've been playing music for a long time.
Yeah, sure have.
And I remember talking to you from previous conversations that you originally started on piano.
Yeah, I started playing piano when I was about 5 years old and did that most of my life. Just started playing guitar maybe about 8 or 9 years ago.
Can't tell that. I love listening to your guitar playing, man.
4 chords and a capo.
That's an adaptation of the Willie Nelson line that you just need 3 chords and the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So
thanks
true.
for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thinking back over your music history, when did you start writing?
I wrote my first song when I was 17 years old and actually cut it on this last album, and it didn't make the album, but I wanted to do it just to do it. But I really didn't start writing songs. I was always more of a instrumental person in another person's band, kind of supporting other people's music. And it wasn't until I kind of grew up and realized that I didn't care what people thought anymore that I started putting the pen to paper, to doing it myself. So probably in the last 12 or 13 years, I started writing.
Nice. How many songs are on the new album? And you're talking about Wild Petunias, right?
Correct. Yep. Just did that one last October for my birthday. Went to Nashville and did it. 9 songs on there. We
Nice.
recorded 10. 9 made it.
Understand.
It's a lot of fun.
I've got one song that was the first song that I've written that I put away for a long time and didn't play because I felt like it was very repetitive. But lately we've gotten a response to it. So I'm like, I'll add it back. I mean, if you can't figure out it's about fishing by the end of the song, probably have your hearing checked.
Yeah, right. That's great.
Is there a process that tends to work really well for you? Is it lyric first or melody line, or how do you how do you come up with your material?
It's all over the place. I mean, this collection of songs was 12 years worth of stuff. Some of them was just a melody that popped in my head, and then we put lyrics to it. When I first started playing guitar, I only played in open tuning because if you lay a guitar flat in open tuning, it's just a piano. So it made it a lot easier for me to learn how to translate, playing on the guitar from playing piano. So the first 4 songs I wrote were all in open tuning, and I went back and redid them in standard tuning, which changed some of the melodies a little bit too because it sounded different. I typically try to write a chorus before I write anything else, a hook, something like that, just to try to get something catchy. And then I'll play it around the house, and if I hear my wife or my kids singing it, then I'll know I need to pursue it.
Proceed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. If it's catchy, then gets in someone's head, then you're like, okay, that's a good song.
Yeah.
It's like built-in real-time immediate editing and feedback.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will never sing that again, or I will keep singing that.
Yep.
So that's an interesting. It's interesting to me the transition from keys to piano and thinking and how you went thinking about the piano. Do you run into scenarios now that you're like, I can totally hear what I want to do with the piano, but I'm still working on figuring out how I want to make it sound that way on the guitar?
Yeah, so I can, if I wanted to learn a song, if I just wanted to learn a Tyler Childers song or something, I can sit down on the piano and learn it in 5 minutes. It's just the chords. It's just, I've been doing that so long, but on the guitar, it takes longer for me to translate the little melodies or the little licks and things into playing it on guitar. So I don't really remember what your original question was. But,
it's fair. I'm not sure I do either.
but no, I did. For instance, when I recorded this record, I didn't go in there with any piano parts written. And then my wife was like, "You got to play piano."
I was going to ask if you put piano.
I did,
on
yeah.
that.
And I did it the last day at the last minute, and it was just one of those things. I sat down and laid it on 4 or 5 songs with no really preconceived notion on what I wanted to do, and that's just what stuck. So it was much simpler for me to just hear it. It was almost like I stepped into that old me, of all right, here's a song. I'm going to go add keys to it. It's not my song. It's just a song. And I tried to think of it that way, and it was very quick.
Okay.
And then we brought in another guy to play organ because that's a different beast in itself.
There's
So,
a lot of moving parts on an organ. My mom's an organist. I've watched her before, like a pipe organ, and I'm like, nope, I'm good.
yeah, it's a different feel for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about your writing process, and if you write this hook or chorus type component to a song first, sometimes I feel like those things come out for me, and then I can't figure out if it should be verse or hook. Like it's one of those lines that can go either way. And do you encounter that? And what do you do with that when you run across it?
Oh yeah, there's a song on the record called Hearts, and and because my dad played hearts growing up, the card game, and so the chorus is, I'm no good at spades, but I sure do know my hearts, and I'm shooting the moon for you, which means you're trying to get all the spades, right? And you're trying to, or not all the spades, all the hearts and the queen of spades, and that lets you win the game. It's kind of a gamble. So it's kind of that translation of gambling on a girl. But when I first wrote that, I thought, oh, that's kind of a cool verse, but then it just kept coming back to me. I was like, oh, I think that's got to be the chorus at this point.
Yeah, I remember when you performed that on Voice in the Pen. That I loved that song.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's one I've been playing for a long time, and one of the shorter ones that I can play and kind of get over with. I tend to write a lot of sad, depressing songs, so I've been trying to write more happy stuff.
Occupational hazard.
I mean, if I could count the amount of times that people have said that on Voice in the Pen too,
Yeah.
they're like, and they're always apologizing for it, and I'm like, trust me, like you're one of many who is up there doing sad songs.
Did you end up naming that album "Sad Songs"? Or
No, I never did.
She had a whole album that was going to be sad songs.
Yeah, I was gonna make sad songs and like, I have some that are semi melancholy, but
I like when you do a song that's sad or melancholy or angry or something. It's a heavy song, but it's upbeat, and people are like, "I'm so glad you played a happy one." That's tempo. That's different.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you weren't listening to the lyrics of that.
Yeah, which is fine. If you
Totally
don't
cool.
listen to
You
it,
do
that's
you.
good.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a suicide song at all. It's very happy. Yeah. But a good friend of mine I played music with for a long time, I think he said, sad songs make me happy, and that's kind of how I feel too. Like, you kind of get the emotions out, and it's rewarding. It's therapeutic.
I was gonna say therapeutic. Yeah.
I think it's like I think that aspect of songwriting, like when you do your job well as a songwriter, you're able to tap into an emotion or a group of emotions and then sort of channel those for people to feel.
Yeah.
People in the audience or people listening to feel. And when you do that and you do it at a high level, it's really, really noticeable, and togetherness and sadness, I think, is helpful. Yeah. It's like therapy. It's like going to shows, going to songwriter shows specifically for me is like therapy, which I think is part of the reason a lot of us write anyways. As Scarlett was explaining last night, she expresses herself through writing.
Through writing. Yeah. And it's very like, it's so relatable. I feel like it's just so much more relatable to have like emotional songs than it is like
Jack Johnson.
Happy. Yeah, it's like there's a time and a place for that, but the sad songs are the relatable, like, okay, you're a real person. You know what I mean?
The time for happy songs is when you're like on a resort in St. Lucia or something.
Hopefully my wife doesn't watch this.
I said the wrong place.
Puerto Rico, yeah. Oh, that's funny.
How about on a cruise ship? We'll just go with cruise ship.
I mean, Jason Isbell's Southeastern record, I thought, just completely punched me in the face and the gut, and it still does every single time. Mm-hmm. And that's a good example of what you're saying, is that when you hear those songs, they're just crippling sad, but they're also relatable. And it's, that's like, to me, he's the top notch of anybody that I want to write like,
Oh yeah. Well, that covers next sort of question is influences and what you're listening to now.
Right now I'm listening to, I kind of have a vicious cycle. So I listen to a lot of the same things over and over and over again. Like I've been listening to Pink Floyd since I was a kid. I think Roger Waters is a genius. I think David Gilmour is a genius. I listen to a ton of Neil Young. I love Neil Young. I have to use Apple Music for that now. I own most of his records, so if I want to, I can listen that way. But, Zack Aaron, I listen to him a lot lately. And Tyler Childers, of course. I like any kind of songwriter stuff. And, I was really into Ryan Adams for a long time. I still think Easy Tiger is one of the best records ever written. Just start to finish, it's so good. But really all over the place. I love the instrumental pieces of a band like Pink Floyd. But the writing's really good too. And I think it gets overlooked because people think they're so abstract and all this stuff, but it's really, it's just a different approach to it. Yeah. If you really, it forces you to think a little more, but.
I mean, their lyrics are pretty, in a way, direct and pretty concrete, and then they get, I feel like the abstractness of the music, it makes it easier to kind of consume and connect to the lyrics for me anyways, but that's just me.
No, I mean the I am you and what I see is me, like to me that's just, you can think about that in every aspect of life, just walking down the street, being at work, doing this, whatever it is. So I actually got a chance to go see him on his last tour in Dallas
Oh wow.
back in October, and it was unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
It's I think another interesting thing about songwriting too, though, is coming back to the emotional component. You know, I mean, really, there are a specific number of human emotions. I don't really know what that is, but in a way, all of us for centuries as songwriters have been finding a different way to talk about the same thing. You know, so I mean, like we notice, especially with a lot of our writers that we see that are in the 20s, there are a lot of breakup songs.
Yeah, for sure,
A
yeah.
lot of breakup songs, you know, and people have been breaking up for a long time. And then there are a lot of songs that deal with people's demons, their addictions, their vices, whatever, you know. So I think that's another interesting component of it, is how do we come up with a way to do something that's maybe new or slightly different? But then, you know, start wondering, is it, you know, because it's the same 12 notes. We all have them. We use them differently.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed with the younger, I think this last show we had a 19-year-old, and then the show the month before that we had an 18-year-old on, and this is just something random. I was noticing that there's a lot more cuss words in their breakup songs than the older singer songwriters, and that's just a random observation I've had talking about
More
the
socially
breakup songs.
acceptable these days.
Yeah.
Maybe than,
Yeah,
I mean, 20 or 30 years ago, people didn't really curse as much in public. I don't think, you know, and now it's more commonplace.
I mean,
Yeah.
I said "son of a bitch" on that record, and I was worried that my mom was going to be disappointed. It's definitely a generational thing, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
think. I don't have any curse words. I don't have any curse words in any of my songs that are recorded. But I used the word whore twice in one of them. But it's about music.
Yeah, one thing that you did on the very first time you played Voice of the Pen, because your name is Zack Brown, which I notice now you're putting Zack Aaron out there.
I did change it.
You started singing the, little bit of chicken fried.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I remember I was like walking or doing something, walking around, and then all of a sudden my ear was like, and then I was like, oh my God, that was the funniest thing, like to me, that you did that. I was like, I love
It
that.
used to annoy me, and now I just like to address it head on. Because
Right.
You know, I mean, he's very talented and he's got a great career. But one of the marketing people that I know was like, look, Zach, if you're going to put out a record, you can't do it as Zack Brown. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get buried down all the search results. And so I just use my middle name and put it out that way. So.
Yeah.
Like it.
Makes sense.
So one of the things that I love about your music is your singing and your voice. So we talked about the instrument aspect. What's your singing background? Did you grow up singing? Like, are you how did this come to pass? Totally self-taught, or?
I've been singing since I was a kid. One of my favorite artists growing up was Boyz II Men.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm not ashamed to
Cooley
say
High
that.
Harmony.
I love that.
Love Boyz II Men. But I would learn all four parts.
Okay.
So I would
Nice.
learn, Wanye, all those guys. I would learn each part and just practice it. And they're incredible singers. And so, and then when I started getting into Neil Young, he's really hard to cover, but that really helped with the higher ranges and stuff like that. But a lot of soul, like I listened to a ton of Ray Charles when I was younger, and his voice is just, crippling good. And I don't know if there's something to that with him. I always wonder, with people that have no vision or something, their other senses are so much stronger. But when you hear him sing, I mean, there's a song I can send both of you called "It's All Right," but it is just like his voice, like is something I aspire to always try to do. And I cover a Ray Charles song. It's really funny, and it's not nearly as good as Ray Charles would ever have done it, but it's just super fun to sing. And then another singer influence for me is Don Henley, and I just love his voice, the rasp in it. But yeah, I mean, I'm singing all the time. I sing to my kids. I sing.
So were you performing when you were younger before band stuff? This is you just like heard Cooley High Harmony and were like, that's 4 parts. I'm going to learn them and figure them out on my own.
Yeah, I mean, I was learning music, but funny enough, like I played baseball in high school, and I'm still friends with a lot of the guys I played ball with, and most of them didn't even know I played music until when I left high school. Sure. And I joined up with the band that I ended up touring with for 6 years. Most of them didn't even know I played music, so I kind of kept that to myself until an older age. But at home, I was singing all the time.
Yeah.
Or if you were my girlfriend back then, you were getting sung to.
Serenaded.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a time in my life where my musical, like high school, my musical activity was very limited to whatever I was doing in my garage or in my bedroom, and nobody that I played sports with was really aware that I was musical in any way, unless they happened to stand next to me at church and be like, "Oh, you can sing."
Yeah.
You know? So thank you for coming and sharing all this with us. We're really excited to hear some of your songs today.
Cool.
You're going to play a couple for us.
Yeah. I'll play a couple off the record. And
All right. Awesome. Is there anything else that we failed to ask you that you're burning and dying to tell people about your album, when it's coming out, all the things?
No,
pieces and
so
parts?
the album's out now. It came out April 7th. You can listen to it anywhere where you can stream.
Hold up the artwork.
And and it's going to do some vinyl, hopefully, and they'll be out by hopefully the fall. Other than that, no, I appreciate y'all having me, and thanks for doing this. This is great. Y'all are doing a lot for the Wilmington music community, and it's really great. And
Thank you for being here, and thank you for your
thank you so much.
contributions to the Wilmington music community. We're excited to hear you play.
thanks, appreciate
All right,
it.
dude.
Memories of bonnets light blue, something to eat I always do, a card game or two, I can still see the table, and the look in her eye. She had wild petunia, come back every year. For a moment every now and again I forget. I forget that she's not here. In a little white house in a southern town, with nothing to do but to settle down. And everything you need, you can get right from the ground. And the company of family. She had wild petunia, come back every year. For a moment every now and again I forget. I forget that she's not here. At the back door waving by like she did every time, tear in my eye, I thought it might be the last time. I think she felt it too. She had wild petunia, come back every year. For a moment every now and again I forget. I forget that she's not here. For a moment every now and again I forget. I forget that she's not here. All right, this song called Hearts. That's not how it starts. I was a young renegade, you were every man's dream. A poet and a beauty from a local family. Didn't deserve the first 5 words, but I asked you for 5 more. You were standing there with a grin and a stare, my jaw was on the floor. I ain't much for space, yeah, I showed you know my heart's. And I'm shooting the moon for you, honey, I'm showing all my cards. So we talked for a while and you went on your way. And never to come back again, I got to find a way. So I took it to the town, all I had was your first name. And where you taught school, I swear I got to find a way. I ain't as much for space, yeah, I sure do know my heart's. And I'm shooting the moon for you, honey, I'm showing all my cards. I ain't much for space, yeah, but I sure do know my heart's. And I'm shooting the moon for you, honey, I'm showing all my cards. When I finally found you, I lost all my air. Your eyes were emerald blue, and the summer in your hair. You turned and said to me, boy, tell me what's on your mind. I said I'd love to if I only had the time. So I'll just say it this way. I ain't much for spades, yeah, sure do know my heart's. Shooting the moon for you, honey, I'm showing all my cards. I ain't much for spades, yeah, but I sure do know my heart's. And I'm shooting the moon for you, honey, I'm showing all my cards. Showing all my cards.